So this is the Sony Handycam FDR AX100 in 4K. So this is the camera that kind of stole the show at CES this year. It's the first camcorder to bring 4K down to the kind of prosumer level. This is a $2,000 camera, so it's still kind of expensive, but certainly not as expensive as a RED camera, and certainly better than something like a 4K camera in a cell phone. So it's kind of nice to see finally this camcorder show up. I've actually been waiting for this for quite a while before upgrading to upgrading my gear, because I wanted to do 4K eventually, and I just wanted to wait until a higher or a more attainable camera came along for my production. I really like Sony Handycams. That's what I use for my video recording, so this was the perfect product for me. I'm pretty excited to finally get it. So there are a lot of specs here to take a look at, so let's get through it. So we do have Wi-Fi in here, primarily for controlling your camcorder using an iPhone or something like that. We do have NFC technology, so this can use NFC on the phone, particularly an Android phone, because there are apps for Android for controlling your Sony camcorder. So you can transfer files using NFC from the camcorder to your phone. You can also use the remote control apps that are available on Android or iPhone. We do have Carl Zeiss optics, we have Bi and ZX, so we do have 120 frames per second processing in here for slow motion. We have Exmor R CMOS sensor, a 1-inch 20 megapixel sensor, so fairly large sensor, 20 megapixels for still image recording and 14 for video. We have triluminous LCD display, Play Memories, which is Sony software for managing this content. We have 4K video recording as well as 1080p, so you can record in 1080p if you don't want to use 4K, because of course 4K is a really high bit rate, so it takes up a lot of space. HDMI, we have Dolby 5.1 available on this, so you can record in 5.1 surround. AVC HD progressive, so we do have standard 1080p AVC HD, so if you want to use that you can, but we also have XAVCS, which is the format used to record in 4K or 1080p. This is a higher quality codec. We also have the Sony Hot Shoe. This is the NI multi-interface shoe, which is kind of hidden on the camera, and I'll show you that. Now this supports SDXC Class 10 cards, which is what you're going to need for 4K. So I was actually pleased to find out that this card actually works in this camcorder. This is a standard Class 10 card, 80 megs. These aren't too expensive, so you can pick these up pretty cheaply. There are faster cards out there that are more expensive that go up to 250 megs, I think now. And those are called Class 3 cards or U3 cards as well. All right, so let's unbox this and take a look at the contents. All right, the first thing we get is our literature. So we have our limited warranty, consumer warranty, accessories. So there's lots of accessories for that NI interface shoe, multi-interface shoe, including wireless microphones, directional microphones, that sort of thing, as well as tripods and cases. Sony Movie Studio Platinum, which is editing software you could use. I just use Final Cut Pro. This is for Canadian consumers. Now we also have a pamphlet for US consumers. Encourage you to register your device and get 15% off Sony accessories. And we have our two manuals, very skimpy manuals in multiple languages. All right, so let's get to the beast itself. There it is, 4K. First thing I see, a nice chrome 4K logo. Really nice, really hefty camcorder, especially if you're used to the small portable Sony Handycams. All right, so let's take a close look around. So you do have an eyepiece here, including a proximity sensor. So if you pull this out and you place this close to your eye, this will activate the OLED display that's in here. Back here we have our battery pack. So if you look here, you can see we have a pretty large space for our battery pack. This will, of course, support a variety of sizes. So you pop that in, there you go. You can see it sticks out a bit. Also add some weight to it. We have our record button for standby as well as record. We have our shutter release, or our mode. We can change between camera mode and video mode. We have our power LED indicator. We have our photo camera or shutter release for taking a photo. You can take a photo anytime you're recording video, just hit that shutter release. We have our zoom control as well. We have that NI hot shoe, so it pops off. It's actually spring loaded, I think. There we go. So there you can pop in an accessory. Snaps on. Very nice. You can see it's got that nice texture to it. It's got that high quality camera texture. Also along the side, it's got this kind of faux leather texture. Feels really nice in the hand. You also have your charging port down here for AC in, for charging your camcorder. We have our hand strap with Velcro. This allows you to tighten it up as you want. But it also has your integrated USB port. I believe this is just USB 2.0, but you also use this for charging as well. So you don't have to carry around a charger if you don't want to. And it kind of plugs into the hand strap there. Well, you've seen this before with other Sony handy cams. We also have our focus magnifier, 8x clear image zoom, so we have full optical zoom there. We have NFC technology. This is the NFC area for tapping to your phone. SD-XE as well as Memory Stick Pro. We have Exmor R branding, Optical SteadyShot, so we have both optical image stabilization as well as software stabilization, and we have Wi-Fi built in. Carl Zeiss optics, we have that 5.1 channel surround microphone built in right there. We have our zoom control, zoom and focus. We have autofocus and manual focus. You can enable with that switch. You have your manual controls here for controlling your aperture or iris, your gain or ISO, and your shutter speed. Now along the front we have these doors here for microphone input. You also have this multi-input for, it's kind of a proprietary connector for connecting something other than micro HDMI to your camera, so you can use other connectors. On the other side you have these ports for HDMI. They've included a cable for you. This is micro HDMI out. And then you have your headphone jack. Now along the bottom we have our battery release, which is kind of an unfortunate location for it because if you have this mounted on a tripod, it's going to be hard to exchange the batteries. And then we also have our mount for the tripods as well. Along the front we have our IR or infrared blaster for night mode. It's also your IR receiver for the remote control. Now along the front we have our Sony lens cap. Behind it is our fairly large lens with our, as you can see, anti-glare properties. We do have a manual focus ring as well, and of course you can see all of the specs here for that lens. Carl Zeiss optics. And let's go ahead and take a look at the screen. This is a 3.5-inch LCD touchscreen. Automatically turns on when you flip it open. If you're used to Sony Handycams, this is pretty much the same interface. It's the same interface I've seen for years now, so I'm surprised it hasn't changed much at all. So here we have the controls on the inside. So we have our program auto exposure, our night shot mode, so there is infrared night shot in here. You can turn off the display. You can also power it on and off. We have our speaker built in right there. We also have our playback, so if you want to play back your media, you just hit that button, takes you right to playback. And then we have something called My Voice Cancellation, so you can cancel out your voice by hitting this button. In fact, if you press it, you'll see it pop up on the screen. You can see we also have audio monitoring here in 5.1 or 2-channel if you prefer just standard stereo. Now, like all Sony Handycams, you pop off the display. You can rotate it around and it will flip the display for you automatically. So you can face the user, or you can move it sideways and monitor it from the side of the camera. Now just to show you the SD card slot, I have one installed here. I can pull that out. As you can see, it's spring-loaded, and when you install it, you get a little read status light right there indicating that successfully connected and that it's reading and writing to it. Now on the back you have your ND filters, so you have step 1, 2, and 3 for reducing brightness in the shot. We also have auto and manual mode. Now, as I mentioned, you have these manual controls down here. So if you want to manually control these, all you have to do is press on any one of them and use this little dialer at the front to change it. So for example, I'm changing my aperture. If you look at the reading right now, you can see it's manually changing with that dial. Same with your kind of sensitivity as well, and your shutter speed. Just to give you some idea of the size difference between this and one of the Handycams I've been using for my videos, as you can see, it's just microscopic by comparison. But it's funny because they look very similar and they work similarly. I mean, they have the same software and many of the same features. This, of course, just has a lot more of it. This also has internal storage, while this does not. This relies entirely on the SD cards or Memory Pro cards you install here. I recorded a 4K video earlier just as a test, so you can play that back. And you can delete it if you want. You can skip ahead, pause it, that sort of thing. Now in terms of the recording screen, we do have our menu to get back to our menu controls. And as you can see, when you snap back to the recording screen, you get a flash of all the information that's available. But of course, you can bring it back just by hitting the display button along the side of the camera. It kind of cycles through it for you. You can control your zoom on the display itself, like so. So you can use this or the physical control on the camera. And of course you can also hide this if you don't want it in your way. And then let's get back to the standard controls here. So we have our record button as well for recording. And as you can see, we have live monitoring here along with our audio monitoring, which is very helpful. And as you can see, we're in auto mode, so it will automatically adjust for you depending on the shot. Now, if you don't want to hear yourself talking in your videos, you can enable this, and this will kind of minimize the voice of the person recording the video and emphasize the voice of the people in front of the camera. Now, we can also use this as a still camera just by tapping the shutter release. Now we have this multi-use ring, so we can use it for zooming or for focusing. So let's go ahead and demonstrate how this works in real life. Now right now I have it set for zooming, and it's not instantaneous. It's not a physical connection to the lens mechanism itself. It's really just using, it's like using a button, but it's kind of like a jog dial. So you get a little more precise control and speed over it. Now let me switch to focus mode and hit the manual focus control here. So now if I use the dial, I can now manually focus the image, and as you can see, it's actually really smooth. So combined with stabilization, you can actually get some really smooth focus shots with this camera. Now just to show you how NFC technology works, here I have my Nexus 5 sending me some notifications here, which has NFC technology built in, and as you can see, the NFC receiver is right here. So if you tap it, you get a little notification tone that will take you right to the Play Store to download the app. So we have the Play Memories mobile app. So let's go ahead and install that. Now once I've logged into Wi-Fi on my camera and installed the app on the smartphone, I can now tap the phone to the camera, automatically launches the app, and now I can control my camera directly from my smartphone completely wirelessly. So as you can see, as I move the camera around, it's updating live on my phone. There is some lag here and there, but surprisingly smooth. So I can record video, and I can zoom in and out using the touchscreen on my phone, and I can stop it. Now I can also change to still mode, and I can snap a photo. And this actually allows me to snap photos from my camera and save them to my phone. So actually this image is saved not only on the camera but also on my phone. So if we go back here, we actually went to the gallery. There we go. We have our settings, and you can adjust this under settings, so you can enable this or not. So I have under save options, I've turned that on. That's actually on by default, but you can turn it off. Alright guys, so that is my unboxing and first look at the Sony FDR AX100 4K camcorder.
Okay, now we're in 2K, trying to still, and we've got dual record on, by the way. Nope, can't do it. Can't record still images while you're doing dual record.